Warning, listening to the following podcast may cause your pharmacy to experience extreme success. Common side effects include of listening to this podcast are greater knowledge, improved performance, and higher revenue. This is the Pharmacy Podcast Network's coverage of the McKesson Idea Share 2017, recorded live from the Ernest Morial Convention Center in New Orleans. Sponsored by the McKesson Pharmacy Technology and Services Division, MPTS. McKesson Pharmacy Technology and Services provides pharmacy owners the technology infrastructure to manage, grow, and compete at a national level while serving their local communities with the best healthcare services. Be sure to listen to this special 12th podcast series dedicated to the empowerment and success of community pharmacy businesses across the country. And now, here's your host of the Pharmacy Podcast Network, Todd Urey.
This is Jim Cloud with Ridgeway Pharmacy. You're listening to the Pharmacy Podcast.
Hey, Jim. Welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Hey, a pharmacy owner has so many responsibilities. Number one, patient safety. You have employees. You have to worry about the bills. You have to worry about your community involvement. You could do a lot with your time other than being at the Idea Share 2017. So obviously it's important to be here. Tell me about why you come to the Idea Share.
We've been in this business since 1998. We've expanded to have a number of pharmacies. And I'll take a couple of years off from coming, and then when I come back on a year like this, I realize how far behind I really am. Just the advancements that I see in PharmaServe that I didn't know about, and then I didn't even know there were needleless flu shots out there. So there's lots of things that I need to learn and come to get back up to date.
Tell me about Ridgeway. Tell me about your business. How many stores do you have? How many employees, and how many communities you serve?
We started out with one store. We're located in rural Montana, south of Missoula. And we originally started out with the retail. We got tired of losing business to the mail orders. We contacted one insurance company, asked for a mail order contract, and surprisingly enough, that insurance company was actually interested in keeping business in state, and they gave us a mail order contract.
Excellent.
From there on, mail order took off for us, and we expanded actually to other states. At the same time, we picked up or opened other pharmacies, compounding pharmacy, a long-term care pharmacy, several others, most of which were located in a small grocery chain based out of Montana.
That's cool. So having a system that's able to do multiple pharmacy operational settings is important for you.
It's absolutely critical.
So tell me about PharmaServe. Why'd you choose that system?
We had both worked on PharmaServe prior to opening our own store and didn't really consider anything else because we knew that system. So we started out with PharmaServe in 98. It's been able to grow with us. Between those different operations, we use virtually every feature in that at one of our stores. So it's been able to grow with us, staying up with the complexities of the insurance changes, the different transmission formats. It's worked well for us, and it's absolutely critical between our stores that we have the same system that can operate each different store, but that we can shift employees when we need to from one store to another. So PharmaServe has enabled us to move those employees as vacations come up, different workloads, etc.
Is your pharmacy, is Ridgeway using the MedSync program?
We are at our retail location, and that's worked out well for us.
Very good. And then talk to me about your mail order business. And when I think of mail order, I think of the big, cold PBMs that don't seem to care much, that don't have outreach to the actual community and or patients. Therefore, when I hear a community pharmacist and pharmacy that's passionate about their customers doing that type of business, I actually call it mail service instead of mail order, because I think there's a difference between mail order and mail service. So tell me about your mail service business. How did you get into that with regards to that one contract, and what's that done for the rest of your business?
Well, it's critical. It's critical to us that people understand we are not an internet pharmacy. You don't go online and order prescriptions from us. That's something we've tried to avoid. We do insurance or PBM contracts for mail service to people's homes. And as I mentioned earlier, how we really got our start was Blue Cross Blue Shield of Montana was having troubles with one of those big three. And they were in danger of losing some large groups if they didn't have an alternative to one of those PBM mail orders. And so when we contacted them, we had somebody who was interested in keeping business in state and wanted better service for their patients and for their customers. So they gave us that contract. And the next couple contracts that came along were in fact insurance companies that said, hey, we heard you're doing this. Will you do this for us? From there, expanding to other states. The first state that we expanded to was Oregon. But we had to start getting licensed in every state. And that took long enough 10 years ago. I can't imagine now what it takes to get licensed, for instance, in California.
So never once did you doubt the system that was in place to keep up with all of this type of business, especially in a mail service environment?
No, we've known what we needed to do. We've contacted PharmaServe and said, how do we do this? And all the functions that we needed to do, everything from massive credit card billing to shipping to data extraction, they worked with us on, and they worked with us well on that to enable us to do what we need to do.
What about the clinical program? Are you guys using the CPS system?
We are at our retail locations.
Okay. Very good. So what do you see as the greatest inhibitor and barrier to being in the business that you're in community pharmacy, in mail service pharmacy?
The greatest barrier right now, it's that the insurance companies aren't really concerned about the patients or their health as far as I'm concerned. Not only are they more concerned about their profitability, but they're concerned about their profitability this quarter. They're not looking at the long-term health of those patients, or we'd see things done a lot differently.
That makes sense. I've heard that before. I've heard that it's all about the stakeholder and it's all about the level of how much that stock price is instead of the patients.
And it's an interesting dynamic when, for instance, we're forced to go through Express Scripts. And Express Scripts has their own mail order. So not only are they our competitor, they're also the ones responsible for deciding how much we get paid. And they're able to audit me as a competitor of theirs and take back money. The whole system with the PBMs owning their own mail order is a tremendously incestuous relationship.
It's frustrating. Well, I tell you what, I'm excited about the future of pharmacy based on the efficiencies that are created by different technologies. I'm really impressed with PharmaServe's dedication to the independent and being able to expand into other types of business. It's interesting. You didn't have to go look for another pharmacy software system when you got into mail service pharmacy. You had the system right there already, so your staff already knew it.
They knew it. Every additional retail pharmacy that we've opened up, we haven't given it a second thought. We call up our PharmaServe rep and get the system in.
That's great. And then training your staff to learn it. When you have a new staff member come on, either pharmacist or tech, how long does it take them to get used to the system?
We can have someone, we move them in slowly. I feel like we're about a month out with someone before we feel that they're fully up to speed.
You feel like the system's intuitive and easy to understand?
I think it's gotten easier over time.
Very good. So what's in the future? What does Ridgeway have on the horizon that you can share with our listeners to help give a sense of hope and entrepreneurship?
Well, it's interesting seeing both the mail order side and the retail side. We're actually seeing a movement by the PBMs away from mail order prescriptions to 90 days at retail, which means that we're actually seeing less of that type of business at mail order, conventional insurance business, but it's moving back to retail. And I think that's very good for retail pharmacy. I think that perhaps someone has come around and realized that that's not in the best interest of anybody to have those prescriptions being sent off. And they're going to get better service out their retail pharmacy. They're not going to wait on the big mail orders for 14 days to get a prescription back.
Right.
I think that movement back to the local pharmacy is a good thing.
Well, Mr. Jim Cloud, Ridgeway Pharmacies, thank you for being on the Pharmacy Podcast.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
Hello, this is Hal Row of Mountain View Health Mart Pharmacy, and you're listening to the Pharmacy Podcast.
Hey, Hal, welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast. How are you?
I'm good.
Hey, have you ever been on a podcast?
No.
This is the first one, see?
This is the first, yeah.
Excellent. Well, we have to share with the listeners the joke that you just told me because it was awesome. So you have to say it all over again, okay?
Okay. Well, I just joked that I do what my wife tells me, that way it keeps things happy. And so I told him a joke. And there was a man who went past the pearly gates. And when he got there was two lines. One line was all the men who knew that their wife was in charge. And the other line was all the men who thought that they were in charge. And this one man went and stood in that line, and St. Peter came up to him and says, "Hey, sir, what are you doing in this line?" And he says, "I don't know. My wife told me to get in it." So.
I love that. So there is so much going on as a pharmacy owner. I've been in hundreds of pharmacies throughout the years. I know what you guys go through. I always consider the Pharmacy Podcast as pharmacy's greatest fan, so we pay attention to you. There are conferences all the time, it seeming.
Yes.
So why do you invest the time and money to come to the Idea Share?
Well, this is my 15th Idea Share, and I just feel like that they focus on those things that are key to retail pharmacy, to the independent pharmacist, and I'm a Health Mart franchisee also, and just the tools and the information that Health Mart has, this is a great place to come and figure out a little more about some of those. I mean, I try to stay abreast, but it seems like as hard as I work to stay on top of everything, I get here every year and find 2 or 3 things that I've let slip through the cracks, and it just kind of re-energizes me and keeps me focused on trying to make my pharmacy the best pharmacy I can have it be.
Share with our listeners a little bit about Mountain View Health Mart. Tell me when you began, what location you're in, how many pharmacies you have.
Okay, well, the Mountain View Health Mart Pharmacy is one of my 5 locations. We are inside of a medical clinic. We do both standard traditional retail as well as long-term care, and we do correctional facilities as well.
Oh, okay.
So that pharmacy, we kind of do a front room, back room kind of a approach, where the front area is our retail, and then we have an area in the back that we do our long-term care. We also have 4 other pharmacies that are either in clinics or in grocery stores that we also manage, and are opening our first complete standalone here in about 2 months. So
congratulations. So that'll be number 6.
Number 6.
Excellent. So what pharmacy system are you using?
We use Enterprise RX.
Why do you choose Enterprise RX? I mean, there's got to be 150 systems out there. Why is it Enterprise RX?
Well, as a small, I'd hate to call myself a small chain, but as a group of pharmacies, Enterprise really has fit our purpose because it does a great job of linking my stores all together. And so I can function in the competition of my chain stores that are running around me. I can do a lot of the same things they can do. We can transfer inter stores. We can do a lot of stuff that way. And I've always felt that the Enterprise RX system is very functional, very efficient, and it helps with the workflow modules in it. It helps us to manage our workflow and keep a clean, fast, efficient pharmacy that lets us compete in a market that is 50-minute wait times. We're usually running 5 to 10-minute wait times, and it helps us to be efficient so that we have that time. The customer's not tired of waiting by the time the pharmacist gets there to talk to them about their meds. They're still willing to listen and let us do that patient counseling and take that time with them to let them become healthier and use the pharmacy and the pharmacist's resources to its full potential.
Enterprise RX in all of your stores?
Yes.
Tell me about the sharing of information. What happens when a patient leaves one of your locations and wants to come to another location?
Well, we had an example of this just in the last 2 years. We were in a grocery store and it got sold, and so we got the carpet kind of pulled out from under us. And I really was kind of perplexed because that was a very high-performing store for me, and I was afraid we were going to lose a lot of that business. And so at that time, we just invited our customers to go to one of our other 2 locations that were within about 2 miles on north or south of that store. And it was so easy. For us, when they walked into the store, we pulled up their name and all their prescriptions were there, their electronic image was there. There was no real hassle in transferring that information from the one store to the other. And it was so seamless and so smooth that it was like we really just kept on doing business, just like we didn't miss a beat. And I think that you see that in all aspects of it. I can do reports from any one of the stores at any store I'm at. I can compare each of the stores to each other. It just has a lot of functionality that allows you to, I think, be more efficient with those multiple stores and make it so that they run as smooth as possible.
Earlier you made a comment about being a mini chain. The trendy word, Hal, is micro chain.
Oh, micro chain, yes.
So now if someone says, are you a community pharmacy? You'd be like, yep, we're a micro chain.
Yes. I have to get up on my vernacular.
the sporty words, right?
Right.
So tell me about CPS. Are you using the clinical program?
It's there. We used parts of it. We used just in a small bit. That was one of the challenges I'm coming home from this Idea Share with, is we're going to implement a lot more. We took the opportunity to learn how to use the adherence performance piece of that and link it into CPS, and that's one of the things when we get home. My next 2 weeks we'll be working on getting that up and going, and then linking the electronic refills to CPS as well, so that we can start to drive a few more of our patients into that compliant of refills and the syncing.
And that's the MedSync program, right?
Right, with the MedSync.
I've heard some really amazing stories about MedSync and helping patients stay compliant and adherent on their medications, which is obviously the road to better health. What do you think you can do to educate the physicians that you now have this technology? Do you have a team that can actually go out and meet with these physicians?
That is me. That's one of the goals that I've taken. With the 5 locations, I'm getting to where I'm working less as a pharmacist, more as a manager.
Okay.
And I enjoy that piece of going out and meeting with the doctors. And there's been a lot of tools that I've garnered from this Idea Share that I want to go home and talk to the doctors about it, because I think sometimes retail pharmacy, we undersell ourselves.
Yep.
I think we just sit in the box and do what comes to us. And I think that we can be way more proactive in going out and letting people know what we do. As I've met with doctors in the past and we explain to them what we do, it's amazing when they look at you and say, oh, well, God, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? And I really think that as a whole, doctors just know that they need to know that we're not the traditional box with drugs in it. We are a pharmacy that takes special interest of our patients and their health, and
Absolutely.
We want to drive that compliance and that good health and patient outcomes. I mean, I think that's really what it boils down to. Most doctors don't. Now, in the past, I've had that opportunity, and as I've done it, I've seen doctors start referring patients to you. They start saying, you can fill your prescription anywhere you'd like, but why don't you go visit Mountain View and see if they can help you with some compliance packaging, or help you with this, or help you with that. And as they understand what we have to offer, then I think they're more apt to use those services.
You stand out. I mean, the services you're providing a physician, once they understand what you're actually doing, it's a big difference than just showing up at some fast food pharmacy that just chucks the orders and gets it done and doesn't really concentrate on an adherent tool like that and a medication sync tool like that.
Right, and I think a lot of doctors get pharmacies that call them and kind of reprimand them for not doing this or not doing that, and sometimes they almost feel like the pharmacy may be a little bit of a watchdog or a enemy in a sense. And I really tried to instill to them that the first reason I'm calling you is because I'm concerned about a mutual patient. That he's your patient, he's my patient, and as we work together, then he becomes our patient. He can still be mine and yours, or he can be ours. And I think as you collaborate together, then he becomes our patient. And as they understand that it's our patient, not my patient, then they're more apt to jump on board and say, oh, yeah, let's do that.
That's a great way to put it. The collaboration and letting the physician know that you're part of their team.
Right.
Yep. So there's a pharmacy in Beaver, Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh, called Beaver Health Mart. Adrienne Cervone is the owner of that store, and she was telling us a story here on the podcast. She's also sharing ideas about Sync, but then also taking her services to employers. So she'll show up at an employer and she'll introduce them to not only some of the MedSync programs, but also immunizations. So there are corporations out there that have traveling employees, and she'll bring the immunizations right to the commissary or the human resource department and let them know about that.
Well, we do that too, in a sense. Our flu vaccines, we go on the road with those a couple of times. We do some correctional facilities.
Okay.
And as part of those correctional facilities, we now provide, every year we do 4 flu shot clinics at shift changes at 6 o'clock in the morning and at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. And we immunize all the employees of the correctional facility.
That's great.
And I think that there's a great opportunity there, because I think as we take that service out to the employee or the employers, I've had that same thought. A lot of employers have health incentives built into their insurance packages, and I think if we were to do a little more of that education in some of those workplaces, that we would build that camaraderie then. And and then when somebody thinks of pharmacy, the first thing that might pop in their head is, Mountain View Health Mart. Oh, they were the ones that came and talked to us about this or distributed that. So.
Have you had employees of the correctional facility then come back and use you as a pharmacy?
Yes, we have quite a few.
That's awesome. Excellent. Well, I tell you what, it's been a pleasure interviewing you here at the Idea Share 2017. Hope to see you back in 2018.
Will be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Pharmacy Podcast Network's coverage of the McKesson Idea Share 2017, recorded live from the Big Easy, New Orleans, Louisiana. This podcast is sponsored by the Pharmacy Technology and Services Division of McKesson, MPTS. Idea Share is about helping pharmacy owners and operators focus on improving their business knowledge, leverage the industry's most effective technologies, and deliver innovative resources needed to improve a pharmacy's performance and maximize profitability. Be sure to listen to all the podcasts from the Idea Share 2017 special series and contact McKesson Pharmacy Technology and Services to learn more about the latest in state-of-the-art technologies and the best software management systems available in pharmacy.